Hello all, welcome to Narayana IAS Academy. This is Sureka Bhaskar presenting to you the daily news analysis. So for today's discussion, we've picked up a number of articles from The Hindu and the Indian Express which are both important and relevant for the UPSC CSE examination. Now let us have a look at the topics one by one. The first article for the day has been picked up from page number 9 of The Hindu, the vulnerabilities of India's elderly. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the demographic shift towards the aging population in India, as well as the associated opportunities and challenges that this particular trend actually poses to them. So holistically, we'll be discussing about the aging population in India, the associated challenges and the current status of their existence. The second article has been picked up from page number 8 of The Hindu. The last continent must remain a pristine wilderness. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the recently held 46th meeting of the ATCM, that is the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting, which was actually held in Kochi, Kerala. That actually brought on to the table the recently ongoing debate of the Antarctic tourism and also emphasized on the need for a regulatory framework for the same, but is actually observed to have fallen short of a definitive solution. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about what is this particular Antarctic Treaty as well as the protocol on environmental pollution to the Antarctic Treaty, which is nothing but the Madrid Protocol. The third article has been picked up from page number 1 of The Hindu. Rahul keeps Bareli, Priyanka for Wayanad. So this particular article discusses about the former president of Congress, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, having retained his parliamentary seat in Bareli in Uttar Pradesh and having decided to vacate the Wayanad constituency of Kerala after winning both the seats in the recently held Lok Sabha elections. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about this concept of twin candidature and what are its associated provisions under the Representation of People Act of 1951. The fourth article has been picked up from page number 10 of the Indian Express. DSR cultivation needs less water, less labor. Why is it not famous in Punjab? So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about what is this particular technique of DSR, that is direct seeding of rice cultivation, which actually has its own advantages when compared to that of the traditional transplantation method, and why it has actually not gotten widespread approval or has become famous despite it being promoted by the Punjab government. The last article for the day has been picked up from page number 12 of The Hindu. NSAs of India and US review progress on iCET. This particular article discusses about the national security advisors, that is NSAs of both the sides. India and US actually have reviewed the progress of India-US iCET, which is nothing but the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies, that is the iCETs. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about what is this initiative of iCET as well as the key outcomes of the meeting. And towards the end of the session, we'll be solving few prelims as well as mains practice questions. And now let us get into the discussion. The first article for the day, the vulnerabilities of India's elderly. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the current demographic shift towards the aging population in India. So for that, we need to understand who are and what is the status of this aging population in India and what are the opportunities and challenges that this particular trend actually gives them. Okay. So here we'll be discussing about what is this aging population in India, and they are a part of the vulnerable sections of the society. And this particular topic falls under GS Paper 2, Welfare Schemes for Vulnerable Sections of the Population by both the center and the state for your mains examination. So moving forward, there has been a mains question in the year 2020 that was actually asked on the geriatric as well as the maternal health care. So mental health, the maternal health, women, the elderly, all these things actually fall under the vulnerable section of the population. So this topic is very, very important specifically and particularly for your mains examination. So moving forward, let us understand what this particular article is discussing about. Okay. So the article discusses the significant demographic shift towards the aging population in India. That is, people who are beyond that working age are actually increasing, and they are little over 10% when compared to that of the previous years, emphasizing both the challenges and the opportunities that they actually face by this particular trend. Now moving forward, let us understand, that is, have an overview of this elderly population in India. If you see in India, the senior citizens, that is, people aged 60 years and above currently comprise a little over 10% of the population, translating to around 104 million. And moving on, according to the United Nations Population Fund, that is the UNFPA, this particular elderly population is projected to rise to around 319 million, that is 19.5% of the total population by 2050. And also, if you see the total dependency ratio, which actually earlier stood at 56.92 in 2020, is projected to decrease steadily till 2025 due to the rise in the working age population, but it is again expected to increase to touch 61.22 by 2050. Okay, so initially there will be a drop on the population who are dependent on the working age population, but then post 2025 it is actually set to hike. So what are the challenges that are generally faced by the elderly population in India? First one is health conditions. So according to the longitudinal aging study in India, that is LASI 2017-18, 24.2% of those aged 60 and above actually describe their health as very, very poor. Not only the physical health, mental health issues are also there, like depression as well as cognitive decline. They are also very, very prevalent. Okay. And also, moving to the vulnerabilities, if you see, the same report, it actually says that around 20% of the elderly experience significant vulnerabilities such as restricted daily activities. Some of them are not allowed to go out, and multiple chronic diseases are there, poverty is there, lack of income, which actually require a comprehensive approach to address. And if you look at this particular image, you can see the prominent diseases which are actually there or prevalent among India's senior care, where the first one is cardiovascular, which actually constitute a concerning level of 35.6%. Then hypertension, diabetes, chronic lung diseases and chronic bone or joint diseases, as well as cancer, which is actually 0.7%. And this is what we actually saw with respect to that of chronic diseases over here. And also, if you see, there is less of economic stability. Here, a substantial number of the elderly are still working primarily in the sector of agriculture, and about 35.7% of those over 60, they actually remain employed, while others actually face unemployment issues, with 1.5% actively seeking jobs. The next challenge is a social challenge that they face. That is, social isolation is a huge concern. So to all those who are watching, if you are actually having very, aged or elderly population, be it your parents or it is your grandparents, it is actually your obligation or your moral responsibility to take care of the elderly at home without subjecting them to any kind of social isolation. See, even the law says that solitary confinement is a crime. So when that is actually the political, fabric of India, it is your moral duty as a human being with humility to actually take care of them. So here, social isolation is actually a concern, with around 5.7% of those over 60 living alone. Life satisfaction is relatively low, with less than half, 43.9% of the elderly satisfied with their social status. Next challenge is that there is a lot of substance abuse as well as crime also happening. That is, the incidence of substance abuse actually increases with age, and there are also crime that are caused, or that the crime against the elderly, it actually remains a serious issue, with several thousand cases reported annually in major cities. Okay. And also, there is inadequate health insurance coverage, where only about 20% of those over 60 have health insurance coverage, mainly due to low awareness as well as the affordability issues. Next is, there is a high out-of-pocket expenditure, where they often face high out-of-pocket expenditure for health, comprising over 70% of their total health expenditure, posing a significant financial burden on the individual. Next, moving on, let us actually see, in order to curb these particular challenges, what are the government initiatives for protection of the elderly in India. Okay. So first one is National Policy on Older Persons 1999, where there is actually state support for financial and food security, the health care, shelter, protection and other needs. The next one is Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007. Here, this ensures need-based maintenance and welfare, including providing shelter, healthcare, and protection against abandonment. The next one is AVYAY. This, according to this particular scheme, it is implemented by the Department of Social Justice and Empowerment, and it actually provides different services to the senior citizens. Moving on, there is actually the Sacred Portal, that is Able Citizens for Re-employment in Dignity, and this actually matches the senior citizens with the business enterprises for re-employment. The next one is RVY, Rashtriya Vayoshri Yojana, and this actually provides free assisted living devices for below poverty line senior citizens with age-related disabilities, and further promoting of silver economies there, where financial assistance up to rupees 1 crore for entrepreneurs is actually been given by the government, who actually solve elderly problems through the Senior Care Aging Growth Engine, that is the SAGE portal. Moving forward, let us actually see few of the things that have been suggested by the article in dealing with these challenges that are actually faced by the elderly population. First one, there has to be promotional measures, especially in the dimension or the sector of health, where there needs to be a significant emphasis on health promotional activities, which includes preventive healthcare checkups and campaigns in order to educate the elderly about how to manage the chronic diseases and promote the healthy lifestyle among them. The next one is enhanced social security, which involves not only expanding the pension schemes but also ensuring that the elderly are aware of various government programs. And next one, provide them the nutritional support, that is, you need to implement the programs that provide meals or nutritional supplements to the elderly, especially those who are skipping meals or who are unable to afford the proper nutrition is very, very vital. And also, the mental health support should actually be given, and also you need to provide or create the social agency where there is a need for innovative institutional reforms that can transform the societal perception of elderly from being seen as liabilities to valuable assets. Okay, so this is very, very, very important, and this actually includes developing community centers that can actually serve as hubs for the elderly, engagement and support, thereby enhancing their social participation and reducing the chances of their isolation. The next article that we'll be discussing about is the last continent must remain a pristine wilderness. So this particular article is discussing about the recently held 46th meeting of the ATCM, that is the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting, that actually took place in Kochi, Kerala, where they had actually brought to table the debate on Antarctic tourism and how important it is to actually bring a regulatory framework in order to regulate the same. But it is actually sad that it actually fell short of a definitive solution. So in this particular article, our takeaway for the examination is what is this particular Antarctic Treaty and what is this protocol on the environmental protection on Antarctic Treaty, which is also called as the Madrid Protocol. So this particular article will be discussing about Antarctic Treaty as well as Antarctic tourism as well as the challenges actually facing the same or the concerns. And this particular topic can be mapped to geography under the prelims examination, and for the mains examination can be mapped to GS paper 3, environmental pollution and degradation. If you see, there has been a previous year question in the year 2011 regarding the formation of ozone hole in the Antarctic region during in the prelims examination. So moving forward, let us actually understand what this particular article is discussing about. So, the 46th Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting ATCM 46 had actually recently held in Kochi, Kerala, that highlighted the ongoing debate on Antarctic tourism and sought to bring a regulatory framework to the table, but ultimately fell short of a definitive solution. Moving forward, it is important for us to understand about this particular region or the continent of Antarctica. So let us actually look into this particular map. So this particular continent is Antarctica. This is actually the South Pole and it is surrounded by the Southern Ocean on all sides. Over here you can see Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Pacific, etc. So these kind of questions are actually becoming very, very, the favorite topics of the UPSC exams or the exam setter or the question setter. So here, focusing on the map and all the areas which is actually bordering a particular sea or the ocean are very, very important. Now let us understand about this region of Antarctica. It is the 5th largest continent on the earth and more than double the size of Australia. It is situated almost entirely south of the Antarctic Circle and it is surrounded by the Southern Ocean, also called as the Antarctic Ocean, and it contains the geographic South Pole. Also, the ice actually covers almost 98% of this particular region, which equates to 90% of the Earth's ice and 70% of the fresh water. And also, if you see the flora and the fauna over here, fauna, or that is the native species over here, include the mites, the nematodes, penguins, seals, as well as the tardigrades. And this is also very, very important. As you see in the recent UPSC examination, they had actually given the area as well as the native species which actually belong there. So endemic species, all these things are very important as they are gaining relevance and significance for your exam. And also, if you see flora, vegetation actually occurs mostly in the form of lichen or moss. Moving forward, let us actually understand about this Antarctic Treaty and its genesis. Why did it actually come into existence? So, the Antarctic Treaty was actually signed in Washington on 1st of December 1959 by 12 countries active in the Antarctica during that time, which actually include Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, South Africa, the USSR, the UK, and the US. So, remember that India was actually not a part of it. Then what happened? There was enforcement and expansion of this particular treaty, where the treaty entered into force in 1961 and since then had been acceded by many other nations, bringing the total number of the treaty parties to around 56. Initially, it was actually 12 and by expansion, it became 56. Moving forward, the key objectives of this particular treaty is to bring a governance framework for the region of Antarctica, to demilitarize this particular area and designate it as a zone free from nuclear tests as well as radioactive waste disposal, and also ensure its use only for peaceful purposes. Next, to promote international scientific cooperation and set aside the disputes, any kind of territorial disputes and sovereignty over here you cannot claim. And also, if you see the geographical scope, the treaty actually applies to the area south of 60° latitude south, encompassing all of Antarctica. And here, if you see the headquarters, the Secretariat of the Antarctic Treaty is located in downtown Buenos Aires, Argentina. And moving forward, let us actually see what has been India's involvement in this particular region. So, India actually signed the Antarctic Treaty in 1983 and has actually gained the consultative status in the year 1983 itself. And also, as one of the 29 consultative members, India is active in Antarctic governance and research, maintaining 2 research stations, very, very important, Maitri as well as Bharati. Moving forward, the protocol on environmental protection to the Antarctic Treaty, which is also called as the Madrid Protocol. So, this particular protocol complements and reinforces the Antarctic Treaty in order to increase the protection of this particular environment. And also, it designates Antarctica as a natural reserve, which is devoted to peace and science only. And also, it is best known for its ban on any kind of commercial mining in this particular continent or the area. And this Antarctic Treaty, main points let us actually understand through this particular infographic. Here, there should be no military use. This applies to land but not the seas. The next one is freedom of scientific investigation. That is, all the stations is actually open to the inspection by the other nations as well. Next one, there is free exchange of scientific plans and data where the national laws apply to the citizens but not to the area. Next one, any territorial claims will be actually put on hold where the treaty modification requires unanimous voting, and also it is actually a nuclear free zone where all the parties will actually ensure no illegal activities are actually carried out. Next one, let's actually discuss about the growth of Antarctic tourism. So here, since early 1990s, Antarctic tourism has witnessed a dramatic surge in the tourist numbers, which have exploded from a few thousands to over 1 lakh in 2022-2023 season. And also, if you see, the International Association of Antarctica Tour Operators, IAATO, estimates a figure of around 1,20,000 tourists in 2023-2024, and the United States and China account for 40% of the tourists to this particular region. And also, the growth is attributed to increased global interest in the adventure travel and also a desire to experience the Antarctica's unique landscape as well as wildlife. And here, Because of this tourism, what are the associated environmental concerns? First is the wildlife disturbance. That is, the increased human presence disrupts the natural behaviors of the wildlife of the animals, impacting the breeding as well as the feeding patterns. Also, there is damage that is caused to the ecosystem where food traffic and waste disposal threaten the fragile ecosystem of Antarctica, leading to long-term environmental degradation. Next is invasive species. So tourism also introduces non-native species over here, potentially disrupting the local biodiversity as well as the ecosystems and the balance. And also there is pollution, where the ship emissions and the waste disposal pollute the pristine Antarctic waters and contribute to global environmental impacts. So moving forward, let us actually see the regulatory gaps to address the growing Antarctic tourism. First one, lack of specified tourism regulations are there. Next is there is actually reliance on self-regulation, where much of the day-to-day management of tourism in Antarctica is left to self-regulation by these organizations, that is the tourist operators we saw. And also critics argue that the self-regulation may not adequately address the increasing environmental pressure posed by tourism. And also, to conclude this particular topic, we will say that addressing these gaps definitely requires strengthening regulatory frameworks, as it was actually discussed in this 46th meeting, but it did not sadly come to a very definitive solution. With specific guidelines should be there for tourism, enhance and monitoring and enforcement capabilities, fostering the international cooperation and balancing economic benefits with environmental conservation in Antarctica. The next topic that we'll be discussing about is Rahul keeps Bareli and Priyanka for Wayanad. So this particular article discusses about the former Congress President Mr. Rahul Gandhi having decided to retain the parliamentary seat in Bareli in the state of Uttar Pradesh, and has actually decided to vacate the Wayanad constituency in Kerala after winning both the seats in the recently held Lok Sabha elections. So in this particular article, let's actually discuss about this concept of twin candidature in elections and the associated provisions under the Representation of People Act of 1951. And we can actually map this particular topic to polity under prelims examination, and under mains it is under GS paper 2, salient features of Representation of People Act 1951. So now moving on, let's actually look at one of the previous year question that was asked in 2021 in the prelims examination with respect to the law restricting the candidates from contesting in one Lok Sabha election from multiple constituencies. So any kind of topic that actually is election result related or with respect to that of the parliament or the upper house or the lower house like the Lok Sabha is very, very important, and the offices there, especially like the speaker, the chairman, and their terms of office and roles become very, very important specifically for your prelims examination. Moving forward, let us understand what this particular article is talking about. So, the former Congress President Mr. Rahul Gandhi had decided to retain the Raebareli parliamentary seat in Uttar Pradesh and vacate the one in Wayanad in Kerala after winning both the seats in the recent Lok Sabha elections. Now moving forward, let us understand what are the reasons for a particular candidate for contesting from two different constituencies at the same time. One is to divide the opponent's vote. Second is to display the strength of a particular candidate's party nationally. Next one is to influence the surrounding regions in favor of the candidate's party. And the next one, it actually helps big names actually to draw voter turnout. For example, if you see Rahul Gandhi himself contesting in elections, it actually increases, and it has been observed to have increased the voter turnout compared to the other candidates. Now moving forward, let us see what are the relevant provisions for this twin candidature in the election. So, Section 33 Clause 7 of the Representation of People's Act of 1951 actually allows a candidate to contest from a maximum of two constituencies. However, this situation was actually different prior to 1996, where the candidates could contest from multiple seats, but after an amendment, it was actually restricted to 2 seats only. And also, if a candidate wins from both the constituencies, they must vacate one seat within 14 days leading to a by-election in that particular constituency. And now let us look at the notable instances of twin candidature. In 1996, in case of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he actually contested from Lucknow as well as Gandhinagar 1 and 2 and chose to retain Lucknow. And also similar case was in 1999 with respect to Sonia Gandhi, who had fought from both Bellary as well as Amethi And followed by that in 2014, it was Mr. Narendra Modi who had actually contested from both Vadodara as well as Varanasi 1 and 2, and he actually retained the Varanasi candidature. The next one is Rahul Gandhi in 2019, contested from Amethi and Wayanad, and he actually won in Wayanad in Kerala. Moving forward, what are the arguments against this particular concept of twin candidature given by the political experts is that first one is wastage of resources, because contesting in multiple constituencies can lead to unnecessary expenditure and can trigger the by-elections, and this actually increases the financial burden on the public exchequer, that is on the government. Next is the voter confusion. The voters may be unsure about the representation, especially if a candidate stands in multiple constituencies, and followed by that there are also conflicts of interest, that is, the candidates may struggle to equally dedicate time as well as resources, particularly in terms of the welfare policies and other initiatives to multiple constituencies, and this potentially compromises the effectiveness as well as efficiency. Moving on, the next one is paradoxical provisions. There are legal inconsistencies. For example, Section 33 Clause 7 of the RPA actually says that there is possibility or it allows for twin candidature, whereas Section 70 of the same RPA actually prevents a person from holding two seats simultaneously. Followed by this, winning versus serving the people. So, running in multiple constituencies might be perceived that a particular candidate is actually very, oriented towards winning the elections rather than serving the people, and this actually raises the ethical concerns. Next one, it's a direct threat to the democracy. How? Twin candidature could undermine the principles of fair representation by allowing dominant figures or the parties to influence the multiple regions unduly. Now moving forward, let us see few of the recommendations of the Election Commission in this regard. The first one is single candidature. The Election Commission has repeatedly recommended amending Section 33 Clause 7 in order to restrict the candidates to one constituency. Followed by that, there has been financial responsibility, where the Election Commission suggests the candidates who win from two seats should finance the subsequent by-election, proposing charges of Rs 5 lakhs in case of the State Assembly and Rs 10 lakh in case of the Lok Sabha elections. The next article that we'll be discussing about is DSR cultivation needs less water labor, but why is it still not popular in Punjab? So this particular article discusses about the fact that despite being widely promoted by the government of Punjab, why isn't this particular technology or technique of DSR, which is nothing but direct seeding of rice cultivation, is actually not gaining prominence, or it is not being adopted in Punjab? So here we'll be discussing about this particular DSR technique as well as rice cultivation, as it's a part of agriculture. And we can actually map this particular topic to economy under prelims examination, and under mains it's under GS paper 3 economy agriculture. So moving forward, in 2015 there has been a question in the prelims examination regarding the seed village concept. So any kind of topic which is actually relevant to that of agriculture and the associated schemes are very, very important. And also the techniques or any kind of innovative methods brought about by the state governments with respect to rice cultivation or other crops or the millets, etc. are very important. Now let's understand what this article is talking about. So this article discusses the reasons why the direct seeding of rice technique or cultivation, which has various benefits when compared to that of the traditional transplantation, has not yet been widespread, or it has not been widely adopted in Punjab despite having active promotion by the government of Punjab. So now let us understand what this technique is all about. It is also known as the Tar-Vatar technique, and it is a method of cultivation that differs from the traditional transplantation method, and it is a modern cultivation. How it actually differs is that where the rice seeds are directly sown in the field and replacing the traditional method of transplanting the seedlings by already, taking them from a nursery. Now, how does this work? First one is no nursery preparation for transplantation is required. So, unlike the traditional methods where the seeds are first sown in the nurseries and then transplanted after a period of 25 to 35 days, DSR actually involves directly sowing the paddy seeds into the field. The next one is field preparation. The field is actually irrigated and are laser leveled. Here what happens, the equipment which are actually uses the laser technology are used for leveling the field before seeding in order to ensure uniform distribution and optimal conditions for the growth of seeds. The next one is the treatment of the seeds, where seeds are already soaked in a fungicide solution for about 8 hours and then dried for half a day before sowing, and this actually helps in protecting the seeds from fungal infections. The next one is seeding process. Here, seeding is carried out using a seed drill or a lucky seeder roughly 20 to 30 days prior to when the seedlings would have been transplanted in the traditional methods. And here the irrigation schedule is that the first round of irrigation is done 21 days after sowing, and subsequent irrigations are carried out at 7 to 10 day intervals depending upon the type of the soil and the monsoon quality. So in total, 14 to 17 rounds of irrigation are required compared to the traditional transplantation method where around 25 to 27 rounds of irrigation are required. Let's see the benefits. Of course, it actually saves a lot of water by around 15% to 20%, and then there are a lot of labor savings as well because you need not have to transport it from the nurseries to the field. So requires less labor compared to that of the traditional transplantation method, and also there is faster maturity where the crops mature 7 to 10 days faster, giving farmers more time to manage the paddy straw. However, there are challenges associated because it actually depends upon, heavily textured soil where the DSR is more suitable for heavy or medium to heavy textured soils, as light textured soils do not retain water or they do not actually have much retention or water retention capacity. Next one is the iron content. Soil with severe iron deficiency and weed problems are actually unsuitable for this particular process, and maintaining the optimum level also actually becomes very, very difficult. Next one, there are adoption issues. Why? Because first one, there is lack of awareness as well as understanding on how this technique actually works and what are the laser equipments we need to use for leveling up. How is the way or what is the way you need to treat the seeds with the fungicide, etc. The next one, there is also a lot of negative feedback over here, where negative experiences and feedback from the farmers who tried this method in unsuitable conditions actually had spread quickly, discouraging others also from adopting. Next one, support and training. Experts actually suggest that comprehensive education, training and support, including a helpline, all these things are not there, and also compensation for initial losses is actually not assured. The next article that we'll be discussing about is NSAs, that is National Security Advisors of both India and US have reviewed the progress on iCET, that stands for Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies. Okay, so in this particular article, we'll be discussing about this particular initiative on critical and emerging technologies, that is the iCET, as it is an important part of the bilateral relations between India and United States. And this particular topic can actually be mapped to current events of national and international importance for your prelims examination, and for the mains examination can be under GS paper 2, agreements involving India and or affecting India's interest. Moving forward, there has been a previous year question asked in 2016 in the prelims examination regarding the BRI, that is the Belt and Road Initiative. So such kind of initiatives, the negotiations and the memorandums that is actually signed between different countries, who are the member countries, the founding members of certain organizations, etc. are very, very important specifically for your prelims examination. Now moving forward, let us understand what this particular article is discussing about. Okay, so the National Security Advisors, that is the NSAs of both India and the United States, have reviewed the progress on US-India Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, that is the iCET, during the second meeting. Now, it is important for us to understand what is this particular iCET all about. Okay, so in May 2022, if you see, India and US had announced this initiative in order to elevate and to expand the strategic technology partnership that they had, as well as defense industrial cooperation between the governments, the businesses, as well as academic institutions of two countries. And the initiative is led by National Security Advisors of both the countries, that is India and the US, and it has 6 priority sectors. These are very, very important. It covers defense, space, quantum, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, as well as telecommunications. So moving forward, let us understand what are the key outcomes of this particular review meeting. The first one is Strategic Technology Partnership Mission. Here, both the NSAs outlined a vision for the next phase of India-US Strategic Technology Partnership, focusing on co-production, co-development and research and development in critical and emerging technologies. The next outcome is Trilateral and Quad Cooperation. Here, they actually welcomed the inaugural US, India and Republic of Korea Trilateral Technology Dialogue in Seoul and ongoing cooperation that both of them actually have in the Quad as an organization with Australia and Japan through the Quad, enhancing the regional technological collaboration. Moving forward, technology protection toolkits. Both the sides actually agreed on the measures to prevent the leakage of any sensitive and dual-use technologies to countries of concern, bolstering the technological security. The next key outcome was the strategic trade barriers, that is, both the sides had actually committed to addressing the barriers to bilateral strategic trade, technology and industrial cooperation, especially in the commercial and civil space sectors. Now, it is also important for us to understand what is this particular office of National Security Advisor in India. Okay, so the National Security Advisor, that is NSA in India, is the Chief Advisor to the Prime Minister on the national security issues. The current NSA, Ajit Doval, he is actually the current NSA, very important. He actually leads the National Security Council, that is NSC, which was established in the year 1998 in order to address India's strategic security concerns across multiple domains. And also, the NSC, functioning within the Prime Minister's office, actually serves as a bridge between the executive branch as well as the intelligence agencies, coordinating on political, economic, energy as well as security matters. Now let us solve few prelims as well as mains practice questions. The first question reads, with reference to that of the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technology, consider the following statements. The initiative was launched jointly by India and Japan. No, this is wrong. The initiative is led by NSAs by both the countries. Yes, this is correct. Telecommunications is one of the 6 priority sectors of the initiative. This is also correct since statements 2 and 3 are correct. The correct answer will be option B. So moving forward, the second question reads, which of the following environmental protocols bans commercial mining in Antarctica? It is not Kyoto, it is not Montreal, it's not Nagoya, it is actually the Madrid Protocol. So since it's a direct answer, the answer is option D. Question number 3, with reference to that of the Antarctic Treaty, consider the following statements. India is a founding member of the treaty. No, this is wrong. The treaty prohibits nuclear tests in Antarctica but remains silent on nuclear waste disposal. This is also wrong. Since both statements are wrong, it is neither 1 nor 2, so the answer is option D. Moving forward, question number 4, the Tarvatar technique, sometimes mentioned in the news, refers to, it is a method of direct seeding of rice, DSR, so the answer is option A. And the last prelims question is, consider the following statements with respect to RPA. The RPA of 1951 allows a candidate to contest elections from a maximum of 3 constituencies. No, this is wrong. The second one, if a candidate after winning in multiple constituencies vacate any constituency, he or she has to sponsor the subsequent by-election. This is also wrong. However, it's just the recommendation by the Election Commission. So which of the above statements are correct? Since both are actually wrong, the answer is option D. Now let us solve the mains practice question. The question reads, discuss the demographic shift towards an aging population in India. Examine the challenges faced by the elderly and suggest the comprehensive measures in order to address these challenges. So here the approach answer is actually divided into 3, the introduction, body as well as the conclusion. So in the introduction, we will actually define what is the demographic shift that is actually happening towards the aging population in India, citing the increase in the percentage of elderly population. And towards the body, we will discuss the health challenges, the economic stability, the social challenges and inadequate health coverage that is given, and also suggest measures like the health promotional measures and enhanced social security has to be given, nutritional support, mental health care services and community involvement to improve the elderly care. And as the conclusion, we need to emphasize the need for comprehensive policies and programs that address both the challenges and the opportunities which is actually presented by this particular demographic shift towards the aging population, ensuring dignity and quality of life for the elderly. So with this, we've come to the end of our daily news analysis discussion. For regular updates, please do like, share and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.